What's up, Infected, and welcome to the Quarantine. Today I'm taking a look at a game by the name of Antidote from Bellwether Games. Now, Antidote plays 2 to 7 players, plays in about 20 to 30 minutes, and is recommended for ages 12 plus, all of which I would say is reasonably accurate. What is Antidote? Well, Antidote is a deduction game where all of the players are infected with a disease, and you all are scientists trying to discover the cure. So at the end of the game, you need to try to make sure you have the right color associated with the cure, and the higher the numerical value on that card, the more points you get, or if you've died, the higher the number, the less points you get, essentially. The more points that are taken from you, I guess, is the better way. And I know none of this really makes a lot of sense, so let's just dive straight over to how the game's played, shall we? Alright, before I get started, I do have to state, as usual, that this is a review. It is not a tutorial, so I will not be covering most of the rules in the game. I will, however, be giving you a basic idea of how the game is played, so you can determine whether or not the game is right for you. Okay, so the point of the game is you have several different colors, some of which may or may not be used depending on the number of players, but you have several colors of cards that have an X on them. Now, before the game starts, you're going to stack your deck by taking these X cards here. You're going to take the box lid, and you will shuffle these up and randomly take one of them and put it in the box. That is your cure. Then you're going to take the rest of these, shuffle them into this deck, along with some of these syringe cards. You're going to stack these up, and I know this is not going to be shuffled very well, but you get the idea. You're going to shuffle them up really well, and you're going to evenly divide these cards up between the players. The hand of cards that you get will look something like this. And I apologize about the glare. So you're going to use this and what everybody else plays to determine what the cure is. So you obviously know that dark green is not the cure because you have this X. But you don't have any other X's, so that's fine. Now it's going to go around in turn order, and the players will do a variety of different actions, which are on your quick reference card here. Those actions will be to discard a card, trade research, or to use syringe cards. When you discard cards, this My Turn card will go around the table, and you will state publicly what you're doing. When you discard cards, they will go face up in front of you. Well, you discard face down and then reveal, unless you discarded an X card. That will remain face down. So you, at the end of the game, will have a series of cards in front of you that look kind of like this. So if you notice one player maybe is dropping a lot of dark green cards, you can kind of determine that dark green, they probably know that dark green is not the cure because they don't need these. At the end of the game, you will have one card left in your hand. When you have that card, you will then reveal what the cure is, and if you die, meaning you did not match it, then you will get negative whatever this number is. If you lived, you will gain positive this number. So this was light blue, I had orange, I did not make an educated guess correctly, I die, and then we play again. Some of the cards have a variety of special powers, like the syringes, and then that's for the base game. Then we'll slide these over, we'll move over to the expansions that come in the base game box. You have the Lab Romance cards. Everybody gets one of these Lab Romance rolls, one of each color. You'll deal these out, and then one of the other actions you can do at that point will be to draw one of these face down, which will change the end game scoring a little bit. Where maybe the person to your left, if they lived, then you get positive points. So even if you die, if the person to your left was right, then, maybe you'll get some points after all. Then you have the placebo effects, which do a variety of different things. By discarding these, you discard them face down as though it was an X card. That way, if somebody maybe uses a syringe to look at it and then realize, oh no, it was actually a placebo effect, and then it triggers a nasty little ability. And then lastly, you have the clinical trial cards. And what happens is whenever you discard this card, you will then steal a card from the player to your left. And that's basically how you play Antidote, along with the expansions that come in the base box. So let's just go straight over to the final thought, shall we? Alright, Antidote. Well, As you may have noticed in the overview, it's actually a very simple game. You only have 3 things you do on your turn. You discard a card, you pass a card to your left or the right, and everybody does it, of course, or you play a syringe, and that's it. And it is a very, very basic game, but some groups are going to have a problem with this game because the first couple times we played, everybody felt like they didn't really know what was going on, which of course is normal first couple times you play a game. But with this, there's so much hidden information going around, and there's so much you have to pay attention to. It's really hard to try to figure out, okay, well, are they playing those because that they have the X's, or maybe they know the X's, or are they playing those because they're just low numbers and they're just hoping for the best? And so it's sometimes for some people it's going to feel like you're just kind of blindly throwing cards down and hoping for the best. But for some groups of people, they're going to see that there is a really cool dynamic going on around the table where you're constantly paying attention to every little thing that people are dropping, and there's a lot going on. And some people are going to love that, and some people are going to hate that. Overall, we do really recommend Antidote. It's a very, for lack of a better word, a very different deduction game. And it is very fun, and it's very tense, especially there towards the end when you start running out of options and you have to make that final choice. Do I go red or do I go blue? Do I take the red pill or the blue pill and see just how far? That was a dumb joke. I'm not even going to go with that anymore. But so you wind up stressing that, because if you make that wrong decision, you're dead. And so that's really cool. I definitely recommend it. However, let's go on to the expansions. We have the clinical trial. We have the placebo. My light's probably glaring and making that glare. And then the lab romance cards. To be completely honest, we played a couple games with these, and I don't recommend ever playing with them at all. They add some really interesting things to the game. The lab romance was interesting. It adds a neat little end game mechanic, but it takes your action to do. So I think we only ever had like one person each game actually take a lab romance, because you had other things to take care of. You're trying to think of all these things, and the longer you draw that out, the harder you're trying to remember all these things of what everybody laid and when they laid it and yada yada yada, what information has come to light. And then now you're just dragging the game out by taking one of these, which, I don't know, just it wasn't very fun using the lab romance cards. Now the clinical trial ones, the clinical trials are kind of the same way, because you play a clinical trial and you get to steal a card from somebody, which is cool. Out of all the expansions, the clinical trial cards are the ones that I would recommend to maybe go ahead and throw in, but the game works perfectly fine without them. Because you get to steal a card from somebody, so maybe you steal that cure that they really wanted, or they think they know what it is, and you stole their scoring card. So, but then you don't know, so you play it, which infuriates him, which gives you a little bit of information because you go off of his reaction, or her, of course. And then we have the placebo, which one of them fell out over there, so there's supposed to be 3. You have placebo cards. These cards felt weird. I don't recommend using them. They kind of overcomplicated the game, but they're interesting because you would play them face down as though they were a cure. Of course, not the actual cure, but you put it face down and pretend that it is, and then hope somebody uses their syringe, and you screw them over, and then they get the placebo effect, and now you have the syringe, and it just. This and the lab romance I don't recommend to ever really play with. They didn't add a lot to the game. They kind of overcomplicated the game, and which is already a game that is simple but complex in, I don't even know how to explain it. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes that you're having to keep track of, and then when you're adding more complexity to something like that, it's just, I can't recommend adding the expansions, but they come in the base game, and I do definitely recommend the base game if your group is into this kind of thing. This is going to be a very polarizing game. you're either going to really enjoy this game or you're going to hate it, and it's going to feel super random and that you don't know what the hell's going on. So that's my final stance is I definitely recommend it, with the caveat that it's a polarizing game. So depending on your game group, this may not be a good thing to pull out. So that is my review for Antidote. If you like my channel, support me up there on Patreon, and a little bit of support would definitely be appreciated. If you leave a comment, I make sure I read all of my comments. Leave a like on the video, and if you're new here, stick around. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.